Penguin Audio presents The End of Poverty, Economic Possibilities for Our Time, by Jeffrey D. Sachs, read by Malcolm Hillgartner. Foreword. Two men asleep beside each other on a long journey into Africa, literally and thankfully above the thunderclouds. One is fairly clean-shaven, papers strewn around him. Matte black suit, eyes slightly hollowed from no sleep, thoughts too big even for his big head. The other is a more bohemian mess, unshaven, unkempt. He can't just have been up for days. His boyish face says years. An advertisement for why air miles can be bad for your health. When he wakes, an air hostess asks for his autograph. Confused and amused, he points to the geek in the black suit lying among the papers. That's me. Let me introduce myself. My name is Bono, and I am the rock star student. The man with me is Jeffrey D. Sachs, the great economist, and for a few years now, my professor. In time, his autograph will be worth a lot more than mine. Let me tell you how we started this journey. It goes back to before Jeff Sachs had become director of the Earth Institute at Columbia University, before he moved to New York to become UN Secretary-General Kofi Annan's special advisor. It goes back to when Jeff gave me the third degree from the Kennedy School of International Development at Harvard University in Cambridge, Massachusetts. My great friend Bobby Schreiber had advised me to meet him in order to know what I was talking about before I went up to Capitol Hill to lobby on behalf of Jubilee 2000 for the cancellation of the LDC's, least developed countries, debt to the rich countries of the OECD, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, as part of the Millennium celebrations. I would enter the world of acronyms with a man who can make alphabet soup out of them. Soup you'd want to eat. Soup that would, if ingested properly, enable a lot more soup to be eaten by a lot more people. Hunger, disease, the waste of lives that is extreme poverty, are an affront to all of us. To Jeff, it's a difficult but solvable equation. An equation that crosses human with financial capital, the strategic goals of the rich world with a new kind of planning in the poor world. I'm a singer with an ear for a melody. Great ideas have a lot in common with a great melody. A certain clarity, inevitability, memorability. You can't get them out of your head. They nag at you. The ideas in this book are not exactly sing-along, but they have a hook you won't forget. The end of poverty. It's a challenge that's hard to ignore. Jeff is hard to ignore. At speaking events, I've had to walk on after this man. It's like the Monkees going on after the Beatles. His voice is louder than any electric guitar, heavier than heavy metal. His passion is operatic. He's physically very present, animated. There is wildness to the rhetoric, but a rigor to the logic. God may have given him a voice with an amplifier built in, but it's the argument that carries the day. He's not just animated. He's angry. Because he knows that a lot of the crisis in the developing world can be avoided. Staring at people queuing up to die 3 to a bed, 2 on top and 1 underneath, in a hospital just outside Lilongwe, Malawi, and knowing this doesn't have to be so is too much for most of us. I am crushed. He is creative. He's an economist who can bring to life statistics that were, after all, lives in the first place. He can look up from the numbers and see faces through the spreadsheets, families like his own that stick together on treks to the far ends of the world. He helps us make sense of what senseless really means. 15,000 Africans dying each and every day of preventable, treatable diseases, AIDS, malaria, TB, for lack of drugs that we take for granted. This statistic alone makes a fool of the idea many of us hold on to very tightly, the idea of equality. What is happening in Africa mocks our pieties, doubts our concern, and questions our commitment to that whole concept. Because if we're honest, there's no way we could conclude that such mass death day after day would ever be allowed to happen anywhere else. Certainly not in North America, or Europe, or Japan. An entire continent bursting into flames? Deep down, if we really accept that their lives, African lives, are equal to ours, we would all be doing more to put the fire out. It's an uncomfortable truth. This book is about the alternative, taking the next step in the journey of equality. Equality is a very big idea, connected to freedom, but an idea
Sample complete. Ready to continue?